that you're completely just insane here. You are actually, if you stay inside of a family where you mom and dad don't even like each other, your outcomes are still better than if you, the girl boss, goes, I just don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel fulfilled, and so I need to go and date the neighbor down the road or whatever.
Far-right MAGA nut Andrew Wilson was a guest on Piers Morgan's show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, as part of a panel that included writer Julie Bindel, journalist Emily Austin, and trans rights activist Stassia Underwood. If you haven't seen Andrew Wilson, this guy is a real piece of work. We're going to take a look at these clips of him and the rest of the panel on Piers Morgan Uncensored, where they're going to talk about feminism. Things get heated. I'm going to share my thoughts on this as well. Let's get into it together.
Because Andrew made a lot of news on social media with his debate with Tomi Lahren last week after accusing her of being a covert feminist. Let's remind people of that clip which went viral.
Most men are born to be protectors and providers. I can't imagine my dad saying, you know what, to my mom, you know what, I'm not going to be a protector and a provider unless you do this. That's not how real men operate. Real men are protectors and providers, and they marry women who hopefully have some virtue, but also bring a lot to the table as well, that are great mothers, great wives, caretakers of the home. There's nothing wrong with being a traditional wife and mother.
So, Emily, where do you sit? Are you a covert feminist like Tomi? Did you agree with Andrew's assessment?
I'm not a covert feminist. I am very outwardly... You know, the word feminism has been hijacked by, like, the woke left, who uses it as an excuse for psychotic women and liberals to scream on the streets, we want equal rights when we have equal rights. I'm more so an empowered woman who encourages other women to, you know, be independent, work hard, chase your dreams. And that doesn't come at the expense of being feminine. It doesn't come at the expense of, now as a feminist, you need to eradicate all men. I don't think everything is so black or white. Listening to that debate, they spoke a bit about gender roles, and here's my take on that. If you're going to have gender role expectations for your man, that's a personal choice. Emily Austin has high expectations of her man. He has to be working hard. He should be successful. He should, you know, pay attention to how I feel. Like, there should be certain gender roles. He has to provide for the family, not solely, but he should be providing for his family. These are gender roles. As a woman, I learned how to cook. I know how to clean. My grandmother always tells me, my mother tells me, Emily, you're going to be a good wife. You're going to be loyal. You're going to be supportive. You're going to act like a lady. Now, there's many women who don't want to play into the gender roles, which is fine, but then don't expect your man to go out and become masculine. I think it's equal. Like, set the expectation and then date people who meet your expectation. But in terms of covert feminism, first of all, it's such a silly term. Either you support women or you don't. And I'm not talking about the trans argument right now.
Not only is it not a silly term, it is true that most of the political pundit women on the right are covert feminists. And I'll just ask you the same exact question I asked Tomi.
Because the word feminism got hijacked.
Let me finish the question. Let me finish the question. No, I'm talking about all the way back to first wave feminism. Okay, you are feminist, and I'll explain by asking you the same question. If it is men's duty in society to procure, refine, protect resources, which then women and children are the primary beneficiaries of, which they are. What societal duty, which is equal to that, do women have? What is it?
Women, we're going to have children. Men will never understand the burden of carrying a child.
So you have a duty to reproduce?
I expect women to be able to cook and clean.
Wait, so women have a duty to reproduce?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So that's the one duty that's on par. Great. So that's one duty that's on par with that. I totally agree. Are they? Or is it the case that in every single nation in the West, we are under reproductive rates in every single one of them? In every single nation in the West, we are lower than where we need to be for reproduction. So it seems that men are fulfilling their social duty and women are not. And the problem with the right is that the right doesn't ever address this, and right-wing females never address this. Instead, they say it's equal. Work and motherhood are equal. They're not equal.
Andrew Wilson doesn't say here what societal duty that men are performing that women are not performing, or how this is supposed to balance out. So I don't get completely his point here as to what, I guess the man is supposed to be the breadwinner and the woman is at home having the babies and taking care of the babies like it was 100 years ago. But what's so insidious about these MAGA right-wingers like Andrew Wilson is that they talk so much about government control, the government shouldn't be controlling you, and freedom and blah, blah, blah. And they literally want to control whether or not people have children. It's no one's business whether an individual person or a couple decides to have a child or not. That's up to them. But these creeps like Andrew Wilson, they want to control that. They basically want to force people to have children, whether they want to or not. It's sick.
Not only are they not equal, but let me give you another example here. As you dive into this, try to understand that what you do is you actually hamstring women by telling women they should go and be girl boss babes and go to college starting in their 20s. They actually destroy their prime reproductive years. They destroy them by having families later. It's the primary cause.
Okay, that's silly. I'm 23.
Hang on, listen. It's the primary cause for the reproduction crisis. It's the primary cause of the reproduction crisis in the West, is that with women defer families till they're in their 30s. Why do you think the average age of marriage is 32 in the United States? I think it just got raised to 33. Yes, you're going to have way less kids. Okay, part of girl bossing is when you say career women are right on par with mothers. They're not, and society should be glorifying one, not socially shaming the other, but you shouldn't give them the same elevation you give to mothers and matrons of families. That is pure covert feminism.
Okay. I'm going to answer you with the following. I don't believe in the glorification, and especially I see it amongst Gen Zers, of not having children. I actually think it's disgraceful, and I don't think it's a flex at all to brag about not wanting to repopulate. It just shows me that you're so insecure that you're going to be a bad parent that you're not doing it. On the other hand, I'll ask you a question in return. Would you prefer a child growing up in a damaged family with a mother who clearly wasn't ready to raise a child and raise potentially what could be, a deranged child who grows up to be a serial killer or a murderer, or how about this, just a really bad person, rather than wait a few more years until she's ready to have her kid and then raise a mensch? What do you prefer?
Well, so here's what we can see when we break this down. What we see when we break this down is the abuse happens in the public school, where you're 100 times more likely to be essayed than you are if you're in a Catholic church. We see that if it is the case that you're a single mother, you are a single mother, especially by choice, that is usually the selection of stepfather that leads to the abuse of the children. We also can see via the stats that you're completely just insane here. You are actually, if you stay inside of a family where you mom and dad don't even like each other, your outcomes are still better than if you, the girl boss, goes, I just don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel fulfilled, and so I need to go and date the neighbor down the road or whatever, right? The truth is that regardless of your fulfillment, children are the duty. The next generation is the duty, and women have a duty to keep the family intact as well. They're responsible for most of the divorces. They file for the most amount of divorces, not because of abuse, but because of irreconcilable differences. And when asked, I don't feel fulfilled. And it's like, that's not how we run a society. It's literally a death sentence for our whole society. Look at what's going on in the UK. It's a death sentence for them.
Okay, let me bring in Stassia, who's been grimacing throughout that. Stassia, why are you so outraged by what he's saying?
I'm not outraged. I just think that you all are fairly stupid. And everything that's being said is ridiculous. And it's just like a comedy show.
You think you can change your sex? How can you ever call anybody stupid? How can you ever call anybody stupid?
Yeah, she should sit that one out.
Hey, I'm just sitting back watching the shit show happen. I'm here for it.
All right, Julie,
you started the shit show, honey.
Well, hang on. I want to get Julie to respond to Andrew.
Oh, I zoned out and I thought I'd woken up in the 1950s in some TARDIS. You can't take him seriously. It's ridiculous.
Oh, you mean in the 1950s? You mean in the 1950s when we had intact families where 95% of women were getting married as virgins, where families weren't being broken up, where crime was extremely low, where you only needed one income to support an entire household, where mental illness was at an all-time low? Like that 1950s? I'm sorry that I make a reference to a time.
Are you married? Are you married?
Yeah, I'm married. How do you make married with many children?
Is your
How
wife
about you?
happy?
You married with children? Oh, she's ecstatic.
No, I'm 23. I'm a boss lady girl, which seems to be driving you crazy.
Yeah.
working, making money,
I'm just pointing
waiting
out
for the right guy to come
the only
along.
thing you have no arguments. You just try to assault me personally. You can try, but the truth is that I've reproduced. I am
How
married.
did I assault
do
you?
have
I
the
asked you
life.
if you're married.
No, you didn't. You were making a passive-aggressive feminist
to be fair,
Wait, how
to
did
be
I
fair to
assault you?
about how my
You
wife
sound
must be
liberal.
miserable.
Andrew,
Your wife must be miserable.
To be fair, Andrew is
She might
practicing
be.
what he preaches. I want to bring in another clip from a debate between Megyn Kelly and Matt Walsh on the similar theme. Let's watch a little clip from this.
Again, having said that, I like the guy. I'm getting a little tired of his nonstop judgment of women who make different choices than the ones he wants us to make. Sorry, Matt, you're not our Jesus. We don't answer to you. Like, live your life the way you want to live it and stop judging everybody who makes a different choice. I'm sick of it.
Covert feminist.
And she went on to say this about young men not wanting to marry career women. Let's take a listen to this.
We're now telling young, conservative, amazing women that they're not attractive if they also work. If they choose to, let's say, do what I'm doing and what you're doing and like get their voice out there. But I'll stick with me just because I think conservatives listening to this will like the thought of another Megyn Kelly voice up and coming.
Now, Matt Walsh responded by saying
Piers,
men
can I
are
tell you the
generally not
beauty of all of
attracted
this?
to ambitious career. Well, hang on a minute. I want to read a clip from Matt Walsh, or a quote. He said, men are generally not attracted to ambitious, career-driven women, and women's first priority should be children and looking after the home. So, Emily, what do you think of that?
I think the beauty about free will is you make a choice who you want to spend your life with. Like, I know many men are okay with, a woman who works, and I know many men are not. And that's the great part is you choose who you want to partner with. So if you want a woman to be home and have 5, 6, 7, 8 children, which is a beautiful choice to make in life, then go for it. If you want a woman who can do both, work and have children when she's ready, 2 or 3 children, then go for that type of woman. If you want a woman who's never home and going to be, on the road all the time, and trust me, there are many beta men who would love that, then go for that. Like, nobody is forcing you to be with a woman that doesn't cater to your needs. The same way no one's forcing any women to be with a guy like Andrew Tate that's going to beat you and make you miserable. We have choices, and we need to make calculated, wise choices as to what personally is best for you.
The Andrew Tate fallacy.
Julie,
Instantly moving over to Andrew Tate is evil and a representation of men who believe in a patriarchal system. Here's the truth. The truth of the matter is that we should be doing for society what is socially good for society. If we can't reproduce our society, that's a really bad social ill for society. When you have propaganda that is telling women to go get useless degrees
is for me
in
and
psychology
my husband, it's
and
not for
sociology.
society.
Yeah, that's great. Let me
It's
finish.
actually
Andrew,
it's quite sad.
hang on. There's Andrew quickly. Is Megyn Kelly a covert feminist then? Your
Not covert,
criteria?
overt. She's an overt feminist. Covert's out for Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly came out and said women should be prioritizing career over family. That's what Matt Walsh's issue was with her, and he's absolutely right. The guy struck it out of the ballpark. Socially, in society, we should be moving women into a familial role. It's not to say that women can't work. Nobody's saying women can't work. We're just saying that if you're going to glorify things in society, it should be the mother in the intact home and the wife and the caretaker at home, not the girl boss. That's insane.
Andrew Wilson is saying it's okay if women work, but then he says, but don't be a girl boss. So what does that even mean? Andrew Wilson is obviously a guy who just has a lot of disdain and hatred for women. There's a lot that I disagree with Emily Austin on, and she has to get in her right-wing digs there from time to time on younger people who choose not to have kids. And she says that's a flex. But also in the same breath, she's saying people should be able to do whatever they want to do, which I agree with. It's your life. If you want to have children, have children. And like she says, if somebody wants to have 8 kids or whatever, more power to them. But if someone chooses not to have children, they should not be vilified by assholes like Andrew Wilson, who spews this nonsense, this anti-woman rhetoric on Piers Morgan's show. It's just ridiculous. The guys like this Andrew Tate probably look at The Handmaid's Tale and say, yeah, wouldn't that be amazing? Let's have a society like that. It's just disgusting. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with Emily Austin and the other women on the panel that women should be able to live their lives, or anybody who chooses children or not children, that's up to them? Or do you agree with Andrew Wilson, who seems to think that women should be controlled and essentially forced to reproduce because of, in his words, in his mind, the betterment of society? Let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. This is Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.